What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant states that Canelo Alverez needs to be on CP time, meaning Caleb Plant's time. Meaning if Canelo, we all know that Canelo as of right now hasn't found an opponent for his May 2nd date. And Caleb Plant said, hey, before we start, before there's any offers that's thrown this way, let me explain something to you. May 2nd is what? 2 months from now, 2.5 months from now. So I'm going to have to go back into camps, he says, take a small layoff, go back into camp, come back out overworked. No way, no how. How about you go fight Billy Joe Saunders or Callum Smith, and then I whoop up on David Benavidez, and then we meet up. How about that? That looks like it's better to me than you force me into a fight that I'm not ready for and I'm already overworked, and you get the upper hand just because of that, because you guys know I just got out of a fight. It makes a lot of sense to me, because that is like something that would work, because that's all a part of what they call strategy. And it's funny because a lot of times fighters get the narrative or get the reputation for being duckers, and Caleb Smith is well aware of the PBC and their reputation. So he's already setting it up. Hey, I'm not ducking Canelo, but if Canelo wants to try to fight me or force me into a fight May 2nd, that's not going to happen. He's not going to get the upper hand. I'm going to have the proper layoff like every other champion out there. I'm not going to be rushed into a fight like Kovalev did, and then Kovalev, just like he fought Anthony Yard, went 11 rounds with this guy, had a tough fight, was hurt in that fight. Then he went back into training camp, and then all said and done, he did it for the cash. He didn't do it because he thought he was going to win. In fact, he said, you guys actually thought I was going to win that, going right back into a fight with Canelo? Look, Caleb Plant, I like Caleb Plant. I think Caleb Plant doesn't get enough recognition. I think he was the guy that people overlook. He was overlooked. He was the guy like Gary Russell Jr. on that side of the street that was looking for fights until he got that fight and then he proved himself. And this is where he's at right now. And I think that Canelo Alverez, Oscar De La Hoya, they may have Caleb Smith on that list. Remember that short list of names that Oscar De La Hoya says he had, but he wasn't going to mention no names right now? I think Caleb Smith was one of those guys that they were going to throw that bone at and see if that dog takes the bite, okay? Bites a piece of that bone, right? But he's not doing it. He said, you're on CP time. I just got a fight. I just got out of a fight. And it lasted 10 rounds, almost 11. Okay, the ass end of the 10th round, he was definitely, whooping up on that dude. But he had a full fight. Okay, so I don't see him going back into that, especially if he's not ready for it. And one thing I do notice about Team Canelo, they like little... they like leverage like that, and I never believed in to force a person into a fight, weight drain a fighter, have some type of weird advantage to the point where the fighter is not even 100%. If the fighter is not 100%, why would you want to fight him? So my thing is, have your fighters at 100% and no excuses, zero tolerance. That's all we need. That's the only thing that you can hope for when you got one fighter versus another fighter, because if that's the case, if you always got to have an advantage, you always have to have leverage, you always have to have that one thing set in place that you have the upper hand that could dictate the performance of the other fighter, who's to say you're the best or not? You're just a guy that's powerful, that makes a lot of money, and you fight guys on your own terms. You know what I mean? It kind of reminds me, because I'm a movie buff, it kind of reminds me of Gladiator and Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix, right? Joaquin Phoenix was the prince or whatever, the emperor or whatnot, and of course, Russell Crowe was Maximus Aurelius, right? And then he was the dude that turned, he was a soldier that turned rogue or whatever. They betrayed, and then he was a slave and fighting like Spartacus or whatever. And he stabbed him, right? He stabbed this guy in the side, so he comes into the fight crippled. he comes into the fight not at 100%, but he still did enough, because it's a movie. He did enough to beat the Emperor, which was Joaquin Phoenix's character, right? So that's what that reminds me of each and every time Canelo gets into the ring. Look at Kovalev. They had a weight draining process. Kovalev looked like he was just withered. He didn't even look the same type of fighter. He didn't look the same way. He didn't look like the Kovalev of what we know. You know what I mean? He looked like he was shriveled up, like he did a bunch of, I don't know. He just looked not like himself, okay? So if that's the way they want to have the advantage, I will go with Caleb Plant, and I'm all for it, because you fight a guy at 100%, you know, at his best with no excuses. So when you beat him, there's no excuses to add. There's no, oh man, I was struggling through training camp, you know, I was weight drained, I was overtrained, I was, you know what I mean? I was overworked. You know what I mean? It is something. I don't want, that's something I want to eliminate. I don't want to hear anything about any excuses when it comes to championship boxing, because these guys put their lives on the line. They, you know, they are good fighters because they fought their way to where they're at. So why would you want, you know, if you have a real true competitive spirit and you're away from your ego, which I doubt with a lot of these fighters, but if you really want to fight the best and you're not caring about those type of things, you want a guy at his best, that's the best attitude you could possibly have right then and there. That's the best thing that you can hope for. You know, you want to fight this guy when this guy was on top of the world, this guy was ready to fight me and everything was intact. Not, oh, man, he was injured, he just came off an injury, and oh man, and he was weight drained because you put in a rehydration clause and all this. You know, like, that's just too much. You know, that's prima donna bullshit, and we don't need that. So I'm with Caleb Plant. I like Caleb Plant because he's one of those guys that, you know, he has a story. And to me, he has a better story than any of Tyson Fury and those guys, or Deontay Wilder, any of those guys. I mean, he had death in the family. You know what I mean? Luis Ortiz too. All those guys, yeah, they ain't had nobody just to die in their life, or like Caleb Plant had a tragic history. You know, so his story, his narrative is some real life shit, because you can't do anything about death. You know what I mean? When people die, they're just gone. You know what I mean? But, you know, his mother died, his daughter died. Come on. You know what I mean? Those type of things happen in the realm of him fighting to become what he is today. So that's a great accomplishment all by itself. All by itself. So, you know, Caleb Plant puts him on notice. Just lets him know, don't send the offers, because, hey, it better not be for May, because I won't be ready for May. Because it's what? Okay, hey, it's mid-February. You know, to turn around and fight him right then for a fight like that, I wouldn't do it either. And really looking at Caleb Plant versus Canelo Alverez, stylistically, that would be a good fight, because Caleb goes in there, he has sweet hands, he has great foot movement, right? His footwork is great. His head movement is good also. And see, he won't give Canelo what Canelo wants. See, that's the thing about Canelo. Canelo loves fighting those fighters like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Alfredo Angulo, El Perro, James Kirkland, even Danny Jacobs, because see, those guys give you something. They come there and they throw a bunch of punches, leaving openings open to get countered. You know, Caleb Plant, I think, has a good enough boxing IQ to give Canelo a lot of problems. But I think he has to be more aggressive with Canelo because, of course, you know, hashtag Canelo on points. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, I feel, that is one of those fights where Caleb Plant would be a very good opponent for Canelo Alvarez, just because of the style, and he's very accurate, and he won't give, like, again, he will not give Canelo Alvarez all those holes, all those openings, all this opportunity to land these counter punches, which Canelo's known for. Okay, a lot of things. Boxing is an art form. Certain things you do, you know, there's a counter for that. Okay, a pure boxer, and he's a pure boxer, but he's a showman also. So he knows how to turn it on You know what I mean? So he's aggressive. He's more aggressive than somebody like Erislandy Lara, because Lara's not going to give you shit. He's going to make his point, and that's it. You can try to land on him. He's either going to exit stage left, exit stage right, hold, or block. Last defense. But you won't get enough up on him, because Canelo knows about that already. But that would be a good fight. And I think at both of those guys at 100%, you're looking at a 50-50 fight, 60-40 fight. You know what I mean? And that looks like a very good fight. And he has the height along with the reach. So, yeah, I would love to see a fight like that. But I'm with Caleb Plant, because if a fight like that was going to happen, you don't want anything to be an excuse or to be a factor that could cause you to not be at 100%. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about Caleb Plant's interview. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.